Welcome, everyone. This is Vanessa Gilbert, Chat with Nessa. Welcome this evening, a phenomenal woman with me, Linda Thornton Thomas. She is president-elect of the PG County branch of the NAACP. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for taking your time, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you for having me, and welcome to all your guests.
Yes, and I want to say this woman is phenomenal. I was reading this bio. I'm like, what do I choose first? Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to get started with a lot of initiatives she has as the president of the chapter in Maryland. So I want to get to all this information that we really want to get to the audience tonight. But first of all, she was a native Virginian, but in 1985 she moved to PG County, fabulous county. I happen to live in it. Thank you very much. So I want to say that this is fascinating to me because you have a huge background. In the early 90s, you actually started working for the U.S. Department of Education in D.C.
Mhm.
And I really love education myself. So I was really impressed with the fact that you have many positions in Virginia, Maryland, principals, D.C. public schools, all these counties. You have been the leader for many years. And in 2006 was most impressive when you elected the PG County School Board. And you had a budget, oversight of a budget of $1.1 billion. That's impressive. And 120,000 students. Then in 2012, you actually became the community business and congressional liaison to the U.S. Department of Labor. Impressive. And the thing is, you really have a huge passion for education. I know
Mhm.
you have actually advanced degrees in administration, supervision, counseling and psychology, also many certifications in mental health, workforce development, mediation, and family counseling. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But I know that you really have a passion for education. You have also chaired many nonprofit and nonprofit organizations focusing on human development, well-being, and education in the community. And I just want to say thank you because you're one of the people that I love to interview because you are a community service person. You've spent your life in education and community service to others. And so I want to say thank you for your service and
Yeah.
welcome,
Thank
welcome,
you.
welcome.
Glad to be here.
And yes, and I know you're a very busy woman because as the president of the PG County branch of the NAACP, your life has to be hectic. But
Yeah.
I appreciate your time because I know it has to be. You have a lot on your plate having that position. But I want to get right into it because I know you have a lot of key initiatives and things on your heart that you're trying to get done, statewide and in the county. So we can
Mhm.
start this conversation with a lot of questions for you this evening. And so,
Okay.
first of all, I want you to tell us about your efforts in the area of workforce development. I know it's one of your passions, workforce development. It's two areas that you're focusing on: youth programs, and you also focus on reentry work programs. So, can you tell us in more detail about your passion and your initiatives for workforce development?
Great. Well, as I guess many educators, we want to see our students once we educate them to get out and have a good career and a sustainable job. And so, because of that, I've always depended on individuals to support me in the community. I've asked for support across the country on areas that we can help train individuals. And so, those individuals who may not want to go to college, we work with them. Those who want to go to college, even afterwards or even in college, we help them with additional training as well. And so the most important thing I think with workforce development is that right now, during this COVID time, it is probably the number one priority. Getting people back to work, making sure each and every person gets in an area or a career that's going to last them a while. So there are a number of individuals who are out here through service industries who not right this time don't really have a job and don't know what's going to happen in the future. So workforce development is that big, I guess you call it balloon that allows everyone to float to the top because we can offer them opportunities in specific careers that's going to help them to move ahead rather than to give them the same thing and then that's a short-term career. So the goal is to train them, especially the individuals who are coming out of the prison population and they are looking at jobs. And it's hard when you are coming in to a community because a lot of times people don't always offer you a job if they believe that you have a background that was, an issue to some companies. Others don't really care about it, but there are people who say, well, since you've been incarcerated, we might not be able to work with you. But with workforce development, those individuals who come out, they do quite well if you offer them programs that have to do with HVAC, construction, electricians, some kind of job where they can become an entrepreneur and hire other people who were had the same background. So we are pushing that. Our youth, we don't do enough during the summer programs. We don't do enough throughout the year with many of our young people. They don't get that training. And a good example is you think about who you have in your household. So you might have your mom, your dad, and they may have a job in education. They could have a job working maybe in a government job, and that job may be IT. Well, for those individuals, those young people, they only know those two careers. We don't have enough career development programs in our school systems or even in our, faith-based organizations that help individuals appreciate the fact that you want to give them a second look at something. And rather than just to see what mom's doing or what dad's doing, you can actually give them shadowing opportunities. You can offer externships. All of that can happen prior to them going to college, prior to them graduating, and they can choose careers that they would like. And so that's one of the things that we push for workforce development. We do want people to be successful, but we also want them to pick something they're going to be comfortable with. Because young people today, it's a little different. They don't like what we call the dirty jobs. All right. They don't want to go under someone's house to fix the plumbing. They don't want to necessarily go up in the attic to work on the electricity in your house. They want to do something where they can just work on the computer. And that's okay. But those jobs aren't always there for every single person. And I'm going to tell you, my plumber makes a lot of money. He does extremely well. And yeah, he's a little dirty when he goes under the house and you got to work on something, but those jobs are rewarding. And plumbers do extremely well. So it's a good career. Our electricians, the same way. HVAC individuals, those technicians' jobs like that are good jobs. They are short term training jobs. And you can get people to participate because they're less than 6 months training. And that is what we're looking for, opportunity for young people to get in something quickly, get started, and to put some food on the table, as I say, and be able to move out of your mom or dad's home. That really makes a difference. So that is the most important thing, I think, with workforce development. And I've worked with, I would say, 13 foundations recently, and some nonprofits, because not all foundations are nonprofit, but the majority of them that are, they go out of their way to make sure they're helping individuals find jobs that are sustainable and then making sure it's more than $15 an hour. So as I say to everyone, there's a job for every single person. There is a job for today, but there are jobs for tomorrow that we never thought we would be able to even do. Look at all the things people are doing now. So, and I think it's wonderful that some states and some counties are putting that additional money in the budget to make sure we support those individuals. I'm just sorry to say it doesn't happen all the time. Recently, I just did a grant with for CETA, that's South County Economic Development Association. I am on the board there and was a chair of their political action and zoning committee. And they put together a grant, and the grant was for women who were over 25 in the service industry, were displaced workers, and would be able to get a help desk career started because they were going to take these courses given by Cisco and CompTIA. And so it's fantastic because once you train them, those jobs run about $25 and up per hour. So that's a plus. And I'm so happy to say that I've done several of those now. And we have had students, 95% of them have gotten jobs and they are making a living wage salary. So kudos for them. And then we just want to encourage all of our governors to really consider some IT jobs for those people who have been working in restaurants and other areas. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. In the reentry, I have a question about reentry workforce programs. Is there a certain age range that covers reentry workforce? Or does
No,
that cover
yeah,
all the way up to baby boomers?
yes, definitely. That's the good thing about workforce development. And of course, in our stage, I'm kind of I'm over 25. I just want people to know that. uh, I'm counting backwards now as far as birthdays, but there is no actual limit, for that. You can start as early as 16, and you can go to 93 if you want. And that's the nice thing about workforce development and the programs that most states are putting out. I've worked a lot in New Jersey, I've done a number of things in Georgia, Florida, California. I'm doing a project in Texas and two projects in New York and Pennsylvania. So it's kind of all over, and people are still looking for ways to support their community, and especially the government, because those individuals are on unemployment. And so you're pulling from the state. The more we can get people to, in a particular job that's a sustainable job, then the state is better for them because they're saving money. So they're all looking for just the right person to do the training, as well as the right career. And that is an important thing, because we were doing things in cement. And that, unfortunately, cement is one of those careers that, you got the machine now, it's pouring it in itself. You don't really need a lot of bodies there. So it's not a lot of jobs in that. We've got to learn that we have to pick the right careers and give individuals the choices that are important, because those choices are going to affect their livelihood for the rest of their lives. Okay.
Yes,
And
yes.
so
And I'm
yeah. Go
Yes,
right
and
ahead. I'm sorry.
like I believe as well, we have to also have additional streams of income
Yeah.
because having worked in 25 plus years in corporate America, I'm
Hmm.
part of an organization now. We really train people how to make money from home as well. So always get
Yes.
that job, but let's talk about, having this stream of income as
Hmm.
well, because in this economy, sometimes that one job is not enough depending on your
Yes.
financial situation. So it's good. That's great. That workforce development is great. I
Hmm.
used to be in corporate America where I worked and hired people through workforce development program in Montgomery County, Maryland. So I
Oh.
really believe that's such a powerful tool that a lot of people just don't ignore it, because we have people out here still hurting, but
Oh, yes.
you have resources.
Hmm.
There's so many resources that are out here for people. So you just educating people about these resources is very commendable. In PG County and beyond, like you said, multiple states, need to work together. The governors need to take action, like you said.
Yes,
People are out here still hurting financially, so we have to give people the resources they need. Now, let's move
definitely.
on to the topic of vaccination. Because I know
Okay.
we were talking previously. Now, in regards to vaccination, understand you desire to have equitable distribution and education for senior citizens. Can you tell us more about that? Because
Yes.
one point I want to say, I've seen a lot of lines on TV. I look at CNN sometimes,
Okay.
and these lines of senior citizens waiting 3 or 4 hours in Florida outside of these facilities just to
Yeah.
get an appointment to get a vaccination. I don't know if you can talk about that too. Is that happening in PG County as a second part of that question?
Yes. Okay. Well, one of the issues that we have with the vaccination is education. The average person is not familiar with vaccinations. A lot of people don't get vaccines. A lot of people don't do flu shots. And then, of course, with people of color, we've had some history that's kind of frightening. And so that because of that, we tend to be a little leery about, getting shots. But let's be honest, if you want to take care of yourself in many cases, and be sure that you're out in the community, sometimes you're going to have some kind of vaccination. And we've done that over the years, especially in our schools, because that can be harmful to other children. But I understand the fear people have. I just need to make sure that our communities, our neighborhoods, that everyone is working together, whether it's our Black community, our Hispanic community, our white community, whatever. We need to make sure that people get real information about the vaccines, understanding the different kinds, and then to also understand the side effects. People are getting information off the internet, and they're claiming, oh, well, gosh, so and so passed away, and this person got the shot and something happened. But we don't really know whether or not the vaccine actually caused that. If a person has allergies, there may be some issues, but we're not sure. It's not enough research yet, and that's one of the problems that we have in Prince George's County. We've done a little bit better now. The last couple of weeks, we actually allowed people from different counties to come in and register to get the shots in our area, the vaccines. That was a little confusing to people because others are saying, well, what if we don't have enough, and then we're allowing other counties to come in and to use up all the supply we have. So we made some changes on that, and now you have to be a resident of the county or work in the county in order to get your shots, and that's a plus for us as well. Some of the concerns is that the individual who's getting the first shot, they are frightened that maybe the second shot's not going to be available. These are all time sensitive vaccines, and they have to be stored in a special way. So it's a little difficult there as well. But it's educating the individual who is not tech savvy. And that's one of our problems. We've got a lot of seniors who don't stay on the internet, don't have an email address, and they're not familiar with what's happening. So they're looking around, waiting for something to come in the mail. How do I go get my shots? Where do I go? And we need to do better as a county, as a state, in sending out literature to those individuals. If you are over 70, for instance, they're not necessarily doing Facebook. So you need to mail something to those individuals so they'll know that this is the location you go. These are the kinds of shots. There's not much difference between the Pfizer one, and the Moderna. They're basically the same, 95, 94%. There's a Johnson & Johnson that's coming out. I think that's around 60%. That's only a one shot. The others are two. So all of that information people need to know. There's side effects, and there are things you can do prior to taking your shot. Like some people are taking Tylenol before they go. They're telling you that you should drink more water, after you've taken your shot, and even before. And that is a way, I guess, to alleviate some of the discomfort. And but that, again, like I said, that's a concern. The distribution in our county, we're getting them out. We just don't have as many people that are registering, and because again, they're still frightened. So we really need to do a better job of encouraging people. But just seeing someone on television getting a shot isn't going to encourage a lot of people to come out and get a shot. They don't care who it is. You know what I mean? It could be Barack Obama. Their thing is, I need to feel better. Tell me a little bit about it. I want to know how many people have taken it in our county, how many people have gotten seriously ill, what's going on. They have to see that data, and we're not giving that data enough. And it's a sad thing. We need to do a better job, as I said before. Our seniors are good people. They want to live a long life. We want to help them do that. But we have to educate them, and we've got to give them the literature and the work that they really need. And I think, like I said, the more print material, the better.
Yes. Now, have you had any information given to you about the second COVID, the second form of COVID that's out? There's a new one, the second wave. It's called variant COVID. And
Yeah.
then there's another one from South Africa that is now in Minnesota and South Carolina. So there's a different strains of the virus. Have you got any information on that?
Well, we had a Zoom call last night with Dr. April Chin and Nurse Brooke Gaskins, and I'm so pleased to have them. They shared, they explained the the mRNA or mRNA, that's it, vaccine, and they answered questions. They also talked about, the safety profiles and the common misconceptions in that. They shared some information about the two new strands, but there's not enough information yet. So it's out there. They found Dr. Fauci, of course, if you see him on CNN, he shared several, I guess maybe at two presentations where he talked about it. But again, he didn't have enough information as well. Some people are saying that this vaccine may not be strong enough. We may need to come back again. Some research has shown that the vaccine can last up to 3 months for some, but others are saying, they got it again within, a month and a half. So it's really one of those weird things that we just don't have enough information about. And keep in mind, we're only talking about what three was and how many, I think they had something like 30 some thousand individuals that they were researching, and they're not giving it to children because they did not have They're not sure about because the child is still growing. They were afraid to do that, so they didn't have enough data for children to take it. And the same thing with the pregnant woman. It can be harmful, and they're not sure whether or not it can harm the fetus. So there's been a lot of back and forth on that. I'm just unfortunate. I really think that we should have a lot more, again, like I said, literature, but we should also have info commercials that come on through the county that's sharing this information. Somewhere down the line, we need to connect. We have, in Prince George's County, we have 900,000 people. And so out of those, we're looking at least 500,000 that are adults. You have to get those people information. You got to get them stuff that they can use to share with their neighbors and friends. And, we're just not doing a good job of that right now. But I think we're getting there because the school system is now planning to open. And that's frightening for a lot of parents. In our county, you can choose if you want to go back or stay on virtual or if you want to go in person. And that's probably going to happen at the end of February, early March, getting the schools ready and making sure that they have all the protective equipment that they need. But in addition, is how to get them there safely on a bus because our county, we have buses. We can't walk to school, only a few people, but the majority of our children actually catch a bus. And now, how do you set 6 feet away on a bus? It's a little hard to do that. Yeah, so it's
Mm.
it's it's very challenging. And again, I encourage people to make sure you go on your county websites, make sure you look at the literature that's being put out there. And if you have a question about the school system, you need to contact your CEO or your superintendent. And the NAACP is here to help you. If you need some support and you are finding that you're not getting information, give us a call. We'll be more than glad to support you and work with you to make sure that whatever that school district is, that if they're not giving that information, then we'll find it for you. All right.
Yes, and they will definitely have your information posted in your website, how to
Right.
reach out to you. Because that's a little scary at the end of
Yeah.
February,
Yeah.
considering, how do kids social distance on a bus?
Yeah. It's a
Uh,
little hard. Yeah.
that has to be tough for the parents, who have to make a decision. But at least they have a choice.
Yes.
Virtual
Yes.
learning can continue, so or you can send your child back. So PG
Hmm.
County, is that the only county in Maryland, do you know, that has the choice of virtual versus going back?
No, a couple of counties do. And in some of the rural areas, you don't have as much of a problem. Their level of COVID is a lot lower because they live further apart from each other and they don't have a large crowd going to the supermarket, if you will. But again, it all has to do with wearing your mask. And at this point, there is some research that says that with the new viruses that are coming in, that you need to double your mask. I'm a believer of a K90, 95 mask, or N95. I wear those all the time because they give you, that much support as far as making sure that you don't get the airborne and it's floating around. So to me, that's a way to protect yourself as well. I saw a lady the other day, and she had a croquet mask. I don't think she realized that how croquet is. It's like knitting. It stuff can go straight through. So that's not the
Hmm.
best mask to use. But again, there's a lot of information. You just got to do a lot of research. You have to make sure you ask questions. And please don't forget to ask your doctor before you do anything. That is
That's
so
true.
important. Yeah. So please give them a
Yeah.
call. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had the same doctor for 17 years, and I said, I
Oh,
do nothing without my doctor. I mean, you got
yes,
to
that is
consult
so
your personal
important.
physician.
Hmm.
But Dr. Fauci, he was on a CNN special last night. He did say that this new strain, he's telling people double up on the mask. If you
Yes,
don't
yes.
have one of those, double up. He said this, just double up on your mask. And some people wearing scarves. It's been here almost a year. You're still wearing a
Still
scarf.
wearing a scarf. Yeah.
Invest in a mask. That's
Yeah.
a scarf, a bandana. That's
Yeah,
not.
that's
It's
not
still
gonna do it.
seeping through.
Yeah,
It's not going to. I
yeah,
saw two people the other day at the grocery store with the bandana on.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
at this point, you should have invested in a mask. I just think
yeah,
it's really something. But we want to move on because we have a lot more information to cover. I
okay.
want you to really talk about your initiatives that you have for small business owner support
Well, I'm gonna
because
tell
you
you,
really
yeah,
that's
that's a
really
big
important.
Yeah, that is a biggie for the county. And that is an initiative under the NAACP that we want to work with small businesses, especially minority businesses as well. One of the problems that I think we have, not just in our state, but in other states that I've worked in, is that we forget that we have an office at the state level that works with businesses, and they tend to forget that they have to go out and educate people on some of the practices that we have in that particular state. And for some apparent reason, we're not getting that feedback. When we put in an application or a contract, a lot of times you may not get the contract, but there's no general, requirement for you to receive feedback on why you didn't receive the contract. Or if it's a grant, it's the same way. But the concern that people are having is that the contracts are given to people over and over again who are very similar to the last contract. For instance, let me make that clear. What happens is that if you had a contract, say in building a bridge, for instance, you got the contract the last time, and the government says, "Oh, well, you know what? They did a pretty good job the last time. We'll just let them go." So the bar now has changed for the other group that is now coming in and would like to participate, in that distribution of funds. So when people are comfortable, they tend to allow the same company to continue. Now, they're not supposed to, and they say that they're not doing it, but you got to keep in mind that if all of they had for the years, if all they've seen is this one company and their practices, sometimes they tend to think that's the way to go. And so because they've done this, this, and this, they're ranking other small businesses based on what some other company has done or put into practice. And then we don't do enough minority contracting, incentives. And I think that's really bad because as a minority, you're not going to have the same funding in some cases. If you're a small business, you may have to combine with other businesses to really get the bonding that you need to bid on a contract. And that is something that the state needs to work with the small businesses. If you're a small company and the best you can do as far as bonding maybe say $2 million and the contract is 10 or 15 million, then what happens is you literally have to find someone else to partner in order for you to get that contract. And so I'm saying use incentives. We should have opportunities for the state to say, well, because you are a small business, we're going to allow you to skip up in priority lines so that you will have 15% of the people that are small businesses. We're going to allow them this contract or an opportunity to bid on this particular contract. So we're doing a little bit better, but we need more people to work with us on making sure people know how to put these contracts together. Mhm.
That's very key.
Yeah.
That's key, especially minority contracting.
Yeah.
I say that because years ago, I worked 15 years for a friend who had a catering company, minority-owned catering company,
Mhm.
and he would go off with grants and programs and funding all the time, and it would choose some of the same people year after year
Yeah,
to
that's
do
it.
certain jobs. He's like, "Well, wait a minute. What about the rest of us who wrote put in a proposal for this?" And so this connects to my next topic with you,
Mhm.
grants. I know a passion of
Yeah,
yours is grants and program selection process at
yeah,
the community and state level. Can you talk about the grants and programs at the
definitely.
community? And you do, I know you care about the state as overall for the state of Maryland.
Yes, I have written hundreds of grants over the years, and so the nice thing about it is that I've learned the process. I've learned how to submit it correctly. I do the fine points here. You have to make sure you add this in, that you read the application carefully. A lot of times, a company will even leave out the on their RFP some of the things they want. And so you have to learn to call people and say, listen, is this something that you want in your grant? Can I ask you this question? Is this strong enough? Do you need this? What happens with this? All of those things are important because as an individual who's looking for grants, and those are usually nonprofits, and they're individuals that don't have a lot of money. They just want a few dollars to work on a special project, perhaps to help the community. And so we need to help them. And in order to do that, again, we need the support of the state by giving training to those individuals. And I can assure you, I've worked on a couple of grants recently. We submitted a grant on a help desk grant And that particular grant, which was so great, it worked with several individuals, and the state actually gave us additional money for it because they felt that it was a benefit to the COVID. Now, the only problem is because we had this the first time this organization had put in for a grant, there was all of this extra stuff they had to do, which I felt was unnecessary because it's a nonprofit. They've been in business for years, and of course they don't have two or $300,000 a year in their bank account because they're giving it all away. But sometimes that is a component of whether or not we give you the money. We want to know if you have money. Well, if you had money, you really wouldn't be asking for a grant. But definitely it's consistent with I gave it to this group last year, so they did a good job. Let me try this year. We need to ask the question, and if the grant's not good, something happened and they did not fund it, you need to tell us why. Why was it not funded? That helps the grantee next time to write it more effectively, or to maybe get someone to assist them with it to make sure it's right. But churches and everyone, they all are looking for grants to help their community. It's a part of their outreach programs. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, I know you were educated for a long time, school board member, a lot in DC, Maryland, Virginia. You've had a lot of years you've educated students. So I know your heart is with education. So what are your thoughts on high school and college articulation? Can you
Well,
speak on that? I know you have
yeah.
a heart for education. That's very
Yeah.
important.
Yes, definitely. Well, let me tell you what happens with some of our college students, and they're going off of the first year, and some of our local colleges. And I've talked to some of the professors, the deans, and the complaint that they have is that the students are not ready for college. Now, when I say not ready, it's their writing skills are very poor. They've not done enough essay writing. They have not learned how to organize their thoughts, so when they go to share something, it's a little sporadic. Those are the kinds of things that we forget to give our children because we're so busy testing. And what happens is then you wind up spending an entire first year taking remedial classes. So in reality, I call that the 13th year. So now it's a waste because you've spent this money and you're taking remedial classes because you didn't get all the things that you needed from your high school. So in my opinion, I believe the most important thing is that you actually get the college professors and the deans and the high school instructors, and you get them together and say, listen, this is what we need. When that student comes in our door the first day, we want to know that he or she has this, this, and this. You shouldn't have a student that is reading on ninth grade level trying to go to college. You should not have someone who doesn't understand, a little bit of algebra, doesn't have to learn the entire part, but has to have some knowledge of it and some knowledge of geometry. Those things, for some apparent reason, because we have such a high number of substitutes in some of our schools, not everybody is going to education anymore, let's be honest. And so you can't find that many teachers that are graduating. So we wind up with, some school districts have 20% subs. Now, can you imagine? Last year we had a number of students, not, at their own fault, and I don't even know if it was the county's fault, but one particular group, a class, actually had a substitute for 3 months. They got a teacher, that teacher left, and for 2 more months, they had a substitute. Now, how much learning can you have? You can't possibly expect that substitute to give something a teacher could do. But my push for the county and all counties is that if you don't have a qualified teacher, that you put the counselor in the classroom or some other supporting staff, because those individuals have had those courses that they need, and they would offer a lot more than a substitute, a long-term sub. So I'm a little, I don't know, what can I say about that? I mean, we got to do better because our students are the majority of our Black students in the first year, especially males. 30% of them in some of the colleges are dropping out after the first semester. And that's because the work is either too challenging or they feel that they didn't get everything that they needed. And then we don't really have what we call a way to track our young people. So I think also a school district should be able to track some of their students as well. If they know that they've sent, say, to a university, 75 students, what have you, someone should be able to go to that school and say, the first semester, how are our students doing? What is it that we need? To do it, for them before they get to you, you guys, and then what can we do now to help them? So there is I believe, a responsibility on the county or the city that the student is coming from to say, we did a good job, we did the best we could, but we can also do better. And we can also help that student as he or she travels through his career, whether it's college or whether it's a trade school or a vocational school or what have you. There's always some need for something. Yeah.
Do you have a percentage in PG County of the students who are not ready for college, but reading at a ninth grade level or lower level than 12th grade and going to college? Do you have a percentage?
Yeah, you know what? I don't have the exact number, but I do know our international students, individuals who have say, a Spanish background, or their parents are Hispanic. Um, their level is very low, and that's because we don't have enough individuals to do the interpreting. And then also, we have teachers who don't speak Spanish. Now, that's because not that the student is not necessarily learning the English, but because you need to be able to talk with the parent as well. And so there are things that you need to tell a parent, and you're not able to do that because you don't speak Spanish. So we need more interpreters, definitely. But I don't know exactly the percentage. Maybe I can get that to you, but I'm just hoping it's getting better, because the more that it's been out there now and people are talking about it, and we see it now more that it's COVID that's happening. Now we know that it's more blatant. And so hopefully some changes will be made in the next couple of years with that.
That just fascinates me. And I know you don't have all the answers, but do
Yeah.
you think COVID and the homeschooling that parents have had to do has contributed to the decline of the
Oh,
literacy
definitely.
level? Because
Yeah,
I know,
definitely. Yeah.
some
There are
kids,
students,
they said just missing. They're not even online taking their
they're not getting.
classes.
No. And then that's the sad part about it, because you can't force them. That's unfortunate. But we do need a better system of tracking them. There was one student, I think the person didn't have a last year, did not have a computer for 4 months. And nobody, they called and asked and never got it. So you can imagine there are parents now saying that they're very disappointed because their young person might have been an A student. Now, through COVID, they're making C's. Now, I'm not a grade hawk, you have to get this A and B, because trust me, sometimes the brightest student is a student who makes a C. However, if the child is working at a specific level and has been aggressive and has done very well, why not make sure that child continues? And so you need to have follow up. And I think having online support service through other ways, for instance, the counselor can check with the students as well. In Prince George's County, we have a Wednesday day that's off, where they kind of just do studying and so forth. And I really think that needs to be more aggressive, so that parents can talk to the teachers more. The student needs additional tutoring. Something like that needs to happen during that time. But it's challenging. I haven't heard from very few parents who enjoy it. Most of them are complaining that they just think it's not working. And it's not the school system's fault. It's just the state they were in. But we've got to do something to help them. We got to make a difference here. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, this leads to the next topic.
Okay.
It flows perfectly. You
Yeah.
believe that we need to have more highly skilled professionals, even retired people, co-teaching in our public schools. Because you
Yeah.
said, and I know because I dealt a lot the last 2 or 3 years before COVID with DC public schools,
Hmm.
and it was like 10, 15, 20% of every school I did in DC, I do insurance, they were substitutes. And
Yes.
that's
Yes. Yes.
growing. And guess what? A lot of those were retired teachers coming out of retirement to help fill the gap for the
Mm-hmm.
need in DC public schools for teachers. So, can you speak of how professionals, even retired people, can help with this challenge in education?
Well, we're working. I started this prior to working with the NAACP with it, but we are actually looking for individuals, because we have a lot of government facilities in Maryland, and we were looking for individuals coming out of NASA and places like that, NSA, where those individuals retired and they're willing to give back. They want to do co-teaching with the teacher. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, if you want to teach physics, why not have the most qualified physicists that you can possibly get? And so what that person would do is if there is a substitute in the classroom, that person would come in perhaps 2 to 3 days a week, and it would co-teach so that the students would get the real quality work rather than to have just a substitute. Because I know we have, like I said, a lot of people, a lot of us school systems just can't get teachers. But having that kind of person, now I know we have to teach them that particular, I call them ambassadors, skilled ambassadors. All right. So I know that that individual is not going to go back to school and get a teaching degree, but we can find a way through Annapolis, our General Assembly, and find a way to allow them to co-teach, but of course require them to say, take classroom management, for instance, because they haven't worked with kids before like that. But as far as the knowledge, they have it. They have more knowledge than the classroom teacher has. So to tell me I need to go back to teach what I've done for 20 years is ridiculous. And we need to make it warm enough for them to come so that the person, and we're not talking about money necessarily, they may not, all of them are not interested in funds, but we should be able to offer them a stipend so that they can, as far as gas is concerned, or some way to accommodate them so that they can do this work, and they're doing it, most of them would do it for free. So how much, that's a wonderful a bunch of knowledge that we can offer our young people. I mean, you couldn't get any better. That's like bringing, one of our Ivy League schools right into the classroom. And I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So I'm hoping to have a chance to discuss that with the governor, with our school districts, encouraging the NAACP to kind of push that around the entire state so that we can get those skilled people that are out there that may not want to work full time, but wouldn't mind coming 2 and 3 days a week. And that's what we need. And that gives us more than what we would possibly be able to have right now, because we don't have the quality workers that we need. Yeah.
Eventually, when that does launch, will that be something that people can go up on your website once it launches and sign up? How would they sign up to volunteer if they're a
Yeah.
professional? When that would it be on your website?
Yes, we're setting up, we're actually reinventing our website, if you will, to make it more user friendly, more community engaged. And so what we're looking to do is to be able to have resources that families can go to, sections in our on our website where you can just, if you need a tutor, if you need additional support service, you're going to be able to find that. We're going to talk about our initiatives that we will have. There'll be a whole list of information that where you can contact a chair. And then in each one of our committees, we have approximately 10 to 15 individuals who also work with that chair. And that person will be able to help and support you, any questions that they might have. We're also looking at our at-large members in the NAACP will go out into the community, and what they're going to do is they will work in our municipalities. Prince George's County has, quite a few municipalities. We also have opportunity zones, and those zones are where we have individuals who have the greatest needs, so high unemployment and so forth. So our at-large individual members will actually work with the mayor, the legislators there, and they will get the information that's, that they feel that's needed to support the community. And we'll take that information from them and we will help develop programs that will support that municipality. So we're trying really hard to make sure everything is equitable, because we need it across the county. You can't have a trash pickup in the northern part of the county and not have trash pickup in the southern part of the county. So we've got to make sure everybody is equal and we have the same thing. So that's one of the things that we're looking to do.
Wow. Now, the next topic sort of ties earlier to the business owner
Mhm.
topic. Can you explain your initiative to help in the area of minority contracts, county and statewide?
We are pushing, just like I just found out this year through the Adrian Jones in the delegate, who is, of course, the speaker, the House delegates. she is pushing for minority participation in state contracts. And that's what we think should happen, not just at the state level, but at the local level as well. And there needs to be a PLA with our unions and so forth, so that everybody gets a piece of the pie, not just a specific group. We need to start making sure that we are, I said before, educating individuals on how to write these contracts, how to put them together, how we can partner so that minority businesses have a chance, at a piece of the pie. And so that's what we're looking to do. And I'm working with a number of community groups that are supporting me with this initiative, and we're excited about that. Some of our veterans and so groups are well as working with us, and we're going to make sure that at least in some of the larger contracts, that even 15% or maybe even 30% is given to minority contractors. So that's one of the push
Wow.
that we're doing. Yeah. Mm,
That's phenomenal. That's
yeah.
very much needed
Yeah.
because it's a lot of people who get picked over that are
Mm-hmm.
minority content do good work. And that ties right into what you talked about earlier with the business owners and
Mm-hmm.
grants and proposals. It
Yeah.
ties all together,
Yes.
equal opportunity. So I
Yeah.
know you have so many initiatives. I want to get the most on the table because I know, as the president elect, you have so many initiatives going on in the county. We already talked about we have another couple guests perhaps coming in March
Uh-huh.
from your chapter, your
Mm-hmm.
branch, because it's so much to cover that you all are working on to help the community. But I know in regards to distance learning, what are some of the initiatives you're working on? It ties right back to that, the education and that
Yes.
distance learning where the parents can
Mm-hmm.
choose now either going back to school or continue with the distance learning. So what are some of those key initiatives you're working on with that?
Well, we want to make sure that the parent has the skills to help their child. So one of the things that we kind of forgot is that the parent isn't necessarily the teacher as far as some of the things in education. So a parent, of course, is the first teacher, but there are some coursework that the parent isn't knowledgeable about, or maybe forgotten because they didn't take it, years ago. And so we've forgotten about making sure that the parent would be able to access the information on the computer, that they would know how to read the test results. All of those things we have not done with them. And I think that's been a disservice to our families because they're sitting there struggling. What am I supposed to do? What's the next page? What's this call? And a lot of things we just didn't tell them. The kids know in some cases, but not always. And so the one thing about distant learning is that we had a problem in the beginning because we didn't have high-speed internet in a lot of places. Our teachers didn't even have high-speed internet. That was a problem as well. It's a problem across in the state of Maryland because in some of our southern county areas and rural areas, we still don't have that kind of access. And I think, Senator Chris Van Hollen wanted to do something on high-speed internet. He had put in for a bill, but at this point, I don't think the bill actually passed, but he's been working on that for a couple of years. And so we're going to be supporting him on that because everybody, if you're going to expect them to do work at home, they've got to be able to access the work. And if you don't have a computer, you can have a computer and still not have internet. So what good is that? We just have to do a little bit better. So I'm trying really hard to make sure that we connect with our CEO and to share with her some of our concerns from our families. And she has been working with me on several issues, and now we're going to bring a few more to her. And she's been receptive to certain things. So I'm glad to hear that, and to know that she will continue to do that as well as she's promised that she will work with us. So those are some good things. I just think that we need to be aware that distance learning has a poor side to it, and it can have a positive side as well. But the part with the poor side is that the child sometimes loses out because he or she doesn't get that touching, if you will, that interaction with other children. Um, the teacher, of course, can't say and walk directly to the child and see his or her work and maybe give them a little something over the shoulder and help them do something. It's very challenging for children, and at this point, we have seen a lot of children who have written frightening things on the internet because they're lonely. A lot of our children are hungry. Um, And then some are just socially, they needed that interaction. And it's been challenging. I'll share a story. A good friend who has a son in middle school, and the young man called his son, and he said, I'm just, I don't want to live anymore. This is not what I want to do. And thank goodness that the son was able to say to the dad, listen, my friend is, I believe he's in danger. And the dad actually got in the car, found out where he was living, went over, and his son walked him around the block just to give him that extra support and to check on him. And so they've been doing that now for a few days. And I think that's what we need. We've got to be able to touch each child. But when you're not seeing a counselor, when you don't have, that extra support, you don't get the pat on the shoulder or the teacher saying something. I mean, we don't all live in great homes. Let's be honest. There are some issues all the time in certain homes, and we're not there, to be the support person. But once you go to school, those kids get that extra hug, or maybe not so much as a hug, as much as that extra smile that you can do. We have, faith in you. Just keep on working, kind of thing. That doesn't always happen at home. And a teacher can give that, and a child respects that. So that's sometimes what you're missing when you don't have kids actually socially interacting at the schools with their peers or with the teacher. So it really makes a difference. Yeah,
And you mentioned some kids are hungry because their main meal that day would have been the meal they got in
that's
school.
it. And that's two
And
meals, at breakfast and lunch.
yeah,
That's,
breakfast
yeah,
and lunch. And
yeah.
some of them, do you have I know I'm asking you questions, you
Mhm.
probably don't have the answer to this. The percentage in the PG County area of kids who are going hungry because their main meals was breakfast
Yeah.
and lunch at schools. Is there a percentage? You don't have those.
Well, the county has been doing pretty well with trying to make sure that they provide them with a meal. So the buses are delivering. That's a plus.
Uh,
I think the school system is trying really hard to make sure. So we're still utilizing our cafeteria staff and so forth, and the kids they're delivering. So that's really been a plus, because that was one of the things that scared me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with Timmy or Troy or what have you? If they don't get that extra meal. And it's not so much as we're saying that the parent is not doing his or her part. Sometimes you don't have the money. It's hard if you have a job where you have to consider, do I pay the rent, or do I, buy, enough for them to have snacks at school, or snacks when they come home, or even a full meal. If you think about it, the average parent sometimes will go to McDonald's because it's cheaper when you can have $1 for a hamburger. It's not a healthy meal, but they are purchasing based on the resources they have. And that is a sad thing. Listen, everybody wants to live healthy, and everybody wants to go into the stores that have the healthy food and all this great stuff, but it's expensive to eat healthy. And I'm not sure if people understand that. You can't just go and get organic this and organic that without paying a price for it. And that is a sad thing. So we've got to find a way to allow families to eat healthy and to bring the cost down. So we have suggested I'm working with a couple of groups. One group I was working with the Lions Club, and we were thinking about having an herb wall where people can go and just pull off the herbs you need, and fill your little basket and take it home and feed your kids, and just doing things like simple things like having a small tomato garden that we can stack up, different kinds of tomatoes. Fresh fruit and fresh vegetables are the way to go. We've got to kind of cut back on the red meat. Oop, don't I know people may be upset about that. I love my steak too, but you got to cut down a little bit on that. And so fish and chicken is a good substitute for that. But it's very expensive. I mean, the difference might be getting your groceries that you would normally pay $200 every 2 weeks, or maybe 250 every 2 weeks. If you added in the healthy living food, you're talking 320. It's a lot more money, and that's unfortunate for those individuals who just don't have that kind of money. So we've got to
and,
find a way
and
to do a better job. Yeah,
Yeah, but that ties right into your workforce development. We were
yeah,
talking about having people have financial literacy, extra stream of
yes.
income. All of that ties in, but in so many communities, not just Maryland,
Hmm.
minority communities, some neighborhoods you can't even they can't even get to a grocery
Oh
store
yes,
that has
definitely.
fresh produce. I
Yeah,
mean, that's just reality. Look
yeah,
across America. That's a
yeah,
United States of America
yeah,
problem, right? Certain
yeah.
neighborhoods, and those people don't have a car. They
And they
have to
don't have a
walk.
car.
And
That's
they
right.
don't have a grocery store. They can't walk 10, 15 miles to the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store that's on the other side of town because
Yeah,
there's not one in that community. But that's
yeah.
been going on for years.
Yes, that's
That
the
has
sad
not.
part. Because right in Prince George's County, we have some public transportation, the
Hmm.
bus, but it's not all over. It doesn't run on a frequent, schedule. And so people that are in our county, if you don't have a car, you're in bad shape. So that's a sad thing, and it shouldn't happen. But there are neighborhoods that do not have a grocery store,
Hmm.
and the grocery or the owners of the grocery stores or chains are saying that they weren't getting enough business. So that's why they decided to close that particular branch or of their stores, or that the fact is that they weren't making profit off of it. Let's just say that, because with every store and the community that you're in, you're buying for that community. So there are certain things certain communities are going to want. So of course, some of the stores, the owners are going to put that in there, and they weren't getting enough profit off of it, and that's why they were closing it. So it's an unfortunate thing, but we've got to find a way. We've got to have better planners in our counties. We've got to have better economic planners as well as healthy living planners. That's something we just haven't done well enough. And then when you design a county or a city or a town, you got to keep in mind that you can't keep building houses and houses and houses, because one of the things we're doing is we're killing the trees. So we can't clean the air. We Most people in these areas, and believe it or not, have sinus. I think I haven't met anyone yet that hasn't had somebody in their family that hasn't had a problem with sinus, and that's a really sad thing, because this is because we don't have trees filtering out all that stuff. So we need to do a better job at that, and we need to, like I said, clean our streets, because that's a problem as well. And we don't, bless our, we're not neutering our dogs. So we have an overrun of a lot of animals, and that's not healthy for the animals as well as for the community. So we have to learn to go out to the community. We got to do more surveys. We have to do field studies, find out what's going on, so that we can work together to make things better. And I think that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is helping and do community outreach. And look,
Yeah.
I want to ask you the final thing. What would be your message to any PG County resident listening right now? How can we as community get more involved
Yes. I'm going to tell you
with all these initiatives? There's so
all
many
the,
things that people we live in the county, but we need to
yeah.
get take action and get involved where you live.
Yeah.
That's any state. That's any
Yeah,
county.
you're right. You're right. And the thing about it is, I say to people all the time, we want to help you. We want to make sure that we're there as a resource for you, and support you when you need us. But we have to have you support us by clicking, and I call them clicks. And the reason why I say clicks is because when you send something up to the General Assembly, or to a delegate or a senator, whether it's a U.S. senator or House of Representative, the number of people that argue a point is how you get things done. So the more people that work together as a group, that will go on the computer, and when a letter is put out there about a specific issue, if they would just click on that button that says, can you support this? Because we're going to send this to Congressman so and so. We need people to do that. I understand people are frustrated, and I would be too. A lot of people are angry. They don't think the schools are working. They're upset with the utility companies because the fees are constantly going up. Our county property taxes are, outrageous in a lot of areas. The cost of homes are astronomical, and it's amazing how we even survive. So you're coming up, you got to buy a house, pay a house note. You have a car note you've got to pay. You got insurance, and in Prince George's County, the insurance companies are charging more because we've had more accidents, and that's a sad thing. But once you add all those expenses, you cannot survive. In some cases, you have to take a second job. And that is really unfortunate, because your children suffer from that. And you, health wise, are also, because you're overworking, yourself, and you're leaving your kids, in the care of somebody else or what have you. It's just an unfortunate thing. So I'm saying to each and every person, we can do this together. Don't claim that, oh, I'm just going to, move someplace else. I'm going to do this or what have you. We need you. And if we are connected as far as working with our city groups, the NAACP, for instance, or the Urban League or whatever, get involved and be that person that's helping us click so that we can make these changes so your community is better, so you feel good about, where you live, and that you buy into this, because we can't do it by ourselves, and you can't just turn around and decide you want to just cancel everything, because it doesn't work that way. Wherever you go, you're going to have to be a part of something. So civic engagement is an important piece, and I encourage everybody to do that. Yeah.
Yes, community involvement, community
Yes.
giving back. And I
Hmm.
appreciate your time because I
Oh,
know,
definitely.
again, as president elect of the PG County branch of NAACP, I know your schedule is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I appreciate you spending this time, and I'm going to make sure they have your website under
Please
this
do. Hmm.
broadcast. They can reach out because, again, we need to get involved. Everything from
Hmm.
financial literacy to getting involved and just look, write a letter. Like you
Write a
said,
letter.
click.
Yes. Yeah.
I belong to our PG County councilwoman's office, Angela Also Brooks.
Hmm.
I make sure I'm involved with. I read that
Yes.
newsletter. I don't just
Yes.
read it. I take action. When she puts out
Hmm.
action items, I get text messages. So you can
Yes.
sign up for your county newsletter. Know who your county representative is for your neighborhood, your ward. I mean, it's just that simple, and that way
Yes.
you can have a voice, and you're not just sitting back and complaining about stuff, but you're taking action as a resident who pays taxes in the
Yes.
county in which you live. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
if
you
you
will
want to
see a
see something
difference.
get you got to get involved. So,
Yeah.
I agree. And I'm one of these people, like, I can't complain about well, this has happened 3 years ago. We went from two trash days a week to one trash day about
Oh,
five
I
years ago.
know.
When it went to one trash day a week, I'm like, well,
Oh my gosh,
we're
that's
still at
gonna,
one trash day a week.
yeah,
you
that
know,
is a campaign promise we're still waiting for. Okay,
exactly.
because
People
I'm
got
telling you,
so upset. I'm like,
yes,
what?
if you have children in your home, let's be honest, you accumulate a lot of trash. And so, having it one day, you're like saving the bags in the house because you don't want the cat to get it or the dogs to get it, and you got it over here. And some people didn't get their trash cans as well, so they were upset about that. No trash can, and you cut us a day. So garbage is a big issue for people. I don't think people
I'm
realize
laughing
that.
because my neighbor three houses down,
Uh,
they have like four kids. And
oh
so
yeah.
when they put their trash out, like tomorrow's trash pickup
Uh-huh.
Friday, they drag I'm just laughing because they drag like four cans and they got another whole mountain because one trash day a week for a
That's
family
it.
of five or six, that's not enough. And it's
Not
been
gonna do it.
more than a couple years. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to file a public complaint here. I'm just thinking, I'm
Well, look at
laughing at some.
the
I'm
bulky
sorry.
trash. It's like 2.5 months to get your bulk trash picked up. So you can imagine you're holding on to that old trunk and you're thinking, can I get that out of the kitchen? So no, I agree. I agree with you. It has been a challenge with that trash thing.
But I appreciate your time,
Yeah.
all the
Oh,
initiatives you have
thank
going
you.
on. I want people to reach out to you. Your website will be there, and
Mhm.
reach out to this phenomenal woman because you've been years and years of service, and you've been doing this a long time, serving the community, educating our children. So I appreciate your years of service and your time this evening. And this is on YouTube and on Facebook, and it will be a podcast by tomorrow. Reach out to this phenomenal woman. And next week we have Lanita Preston. She's an author, a publisher, and a life coach. So she's going to be our guest next Thursday. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we'll continue to network because there's things we can do to help the community together. So I
Great.
thank you for your time. And
Thank
I'll
you.
talk to you soon.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Be safe. Okay. Bye.
Okay, you too. Have a great evening.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.